So I'm wondering, how y'all doing? Had to get my Southern in. You get that question a lot? Really? How are you doing? I got to be honest now, when people ask me that, it's never been more complicated to answer in my whole life. People, they just walk up and we don't think about it. We're saying, how you doing? And now I go, I just got to pause. I'm always hesitating. I got all these thoughts going through my mind, like how much do you want to know? What context? Should I tell you the truth? How much truth do you want right now? Because it's a complicated question to answer. I saw a post on social media. Somebody put this up. They said, what one word best describes your emotional state? And then in parenthesis, it said, no cuss words. And I thought that was kind of funny. No cuss words. What would you answer to that question? If there was only one word that you could use to summarize your emotional state, no cuss words, what would it be? Can you summarize it down like that? Delighted? Numb? You just feel numb? Angry? Are you irritated by what's going on around you? Are you anxious? Afraid? Full of anticipation? What about unsettled? Unsettled, it just feels like everything around you is kind of unsettled. Are you tense? Sensitive? Doesn't it feel like people in general are kind of on edge? Nervous? You know that there's a response, but you don't know how much you're going to get in that response, and you know that there are feelings and opinions underneath, and you're not sure if you're going to get them. This economic uncertainty right now, political upheaval, racial tensions, everybody's so emotional. So I thought what we'd do over the next couple of weeks is to dive into emotions. But not just to talk about emotions, because like we got them, but to talk about them from kind of a gospel-centered perspective. God gifted us emotions. They are from God. And on Good Friday, we had a special dramatic experience where we looked at, or maybe more accurately, we could say Jason Hildebrand guided us to look at Jesus and his humanity. And part of what we considered there was how he responded to these different circumstances that he was in. Being human, how did Jesus live with emotions? What is it that he had to endure? What is it that he felt? And then we're going to look at Jesus and use that to help teach us what we could do to center our emotions. Not just about reacting, but how we might respond with gospel-centered emotions. So for a little bit of perspective, just to get you thinking here, let me share a little of my nerdiness with you. In the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, four Gospels, Jesus displayed 39 different emotions. 39 emotions. Now, depending on who you live with or who you work with or who you go to school with, you might have met someone who, during a single conversation, allowed you to experience all 39. Sometimes we're complicated, right? Jesus, God in the flesh, fully God and fully human, the hypostatic union. Jesus expressed and experienced very real emotions. For example, Jesus on more than one occasion describes how he's looking over Jerusalem, and he saw Jerusalem and all the people there, and I love these people. My Father loves these people, and yet we know that they're disconnected from God, and in that he felt this deep, sincere emotion of grief. They're missing out on the very thing that God wants for them. That's kind of why I'm here. The need is real, and now I see it up close and personal. Whenever there were religious leaders that cared more about the rules and the law than the people, he felt righteous anger toward the hypocrisy and the sin and that lack of love. When those 72 followers came back and they talked about how God had used even them to make a difference, Jesus felt that overwhelming sense of being delighted at the faithfulness of God working in partnership with his people. When his friend Lazarus died, even though Jesus knew that he had the power of life to raise Lazarus from the dead, Jesus felt the emotion of profound sadness, and he wept over the death of his close friend. Before he goes to the cross, he's in the Garden of Gethsemane. Jesus knew what was about to come. And in that time, he experienced loneliness. He felt extreme anxiety, overwhelmed knowing the pain that was about to come. So today, to start this series on emotions, I want to look at the emotions of Jesus, or at least one of them today. What he feels towards us, and believe that that will help us to express that emotion to others. So for our timeline, Jesus had just finished his big famous message known as the Sermon on the Mount. We're going to go to Luke's Gospel, Luke chapter 7, starting at verse 11. Soon afterwards, Jesus went to a town called Nain, and his disciples and a large crowd went along with him. 12. As he approached the town gate, a dead person was being carried out. It's a funeral procession, right in the middle of a funeral procession. It's the only son of his mother, and she was a widow. And a large crowd from the town was with her. Here comes the emotion, verse 13. When the Lord saw her, his heart went out to her. He said, "Don't cry." 14. And then he went up and he touched the bier that they were carrying him on, and the bearers stood still. He said, "Young man, I say to you, get up." 15. The dead man sat up and began to talk, and Jesus gave him back to his mother. 16. This crowd over here, they were all filled with awe. And they praised God. "A great prophet has appeared among us," they said. "God has come to help his people." And we see the power of Jesus expressed through that deep and sincere compassion. So try to visualize this if you can. We'll get to that scenario. Jesus is walking along the road, and he's going somewhere, right? That's why you're walking on the road. And he's trying to get where he's going, and then ahead, getting in his way, there appears a funeral procession. And that's going to look a lot different than it would look for us today. There's no police officers out directing traffic. There's no flashing lights. Very likely there would have been a crew of mourners. Some families, some friends come along, but they also might have been professional mourners, because it wasn't uncommon to pay people to join in, and they would pick up their flutes and their tambourines, and they would walk down the streets, and they would play these instruments, and they would wail in sadness. So maybe if it was us, we'd have, Johnny walking along with the drums, we'd have Kristen playing her flute, and Dan out there playing his lyre. and there's me. I'm there to wail and moan, all right? Sounding suitably awful. So these were pros, and they were there to represent the grief of this huge loss, to help it be expressed. And so Jesus walks up on this very emotional, most likely very loud scene. And there's some things that we know, and there's some things we don't know. For example, we don't know how much about this poor, grieving single mom. We don't know how old she is. Is she like 23, or is she maybe in her late 30s? We don't know how her husband died. Was it an accident? Was it sickness? Was it the Romans? We don't know. We don't know how old the boy was. Was he a 3-year-old, 7-year-old, 12-year-old? We don't know. What we do know is most likely that boy had just died the day before. And the reason that we know that is because back in the first century, in that part of the world, they didn't have formaldehyde. They didn't have the same kind of embalming ingredients that we have today. And because of that climate, whenever a person died, the burial would be very, very quickly thereafter. Almost always the next day. So this is all fresh. We've got this young mom, already lost her husband, the boy's father. Now she's a widow. She loses her only son. It's emotional, right? Overwhelmed with grief. At her deepest moment of pain, Jesus says, it says in verse 13, when the Lord saw her, he saw her, right? So there's over 40 references in the Gospels, again, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, 40 references there where we are told that Jesus saw someone, which again is kind of funny to me. I find funny things all over the place. 40 times it says Jesus saw somebody. Because why highlight it, right? You sort of figure like Jesus sees everybody, right? Unless he was praying, because he's not blind, but he actually might have seen them even if he was praying, because he's the one who told us to watch and pray, right? That's what you should do. So if you decide it's time for you to pray while you're driving, it is definitely time for you to watch and pray, right? Watch and pray, put them both together. So he saw a lot of people. But what the author is highlighting for us is he didn't just see, he noticed. And if you noticed, there's a difference between looking and seeing. If you've got kids, you have. I have kids, but I'm not talking about them. But man, oh man, if it comes up, go look for and just not see. You say, go find it. And they go, nope, there's nothing there. Those things come up, right? Have you ever been around someone with a new haircut, a new hairstyle? Did you notice it? Because if you didn't, and you're married to them, then there's the potential for you to be made aware of your lack of vision. And I'm lucky, in all honesty, that doesn't happen in our house. But on the other hand, the go find the proper kind of wrapping paper or whatever, that can become a whole thing when I show up clueless and empty-handed. I didn't see any. And is again. So Jesus looks on. He doesn't just notice her, but he sees her. He saw her. He noticed her. She's a single mom, a widow who had lost her husband, and now she loses her only son. In the middle of all this chaos, Jesus looks on at her, and the Lord saw her. And because he really saw her, an emotional response awakens in Jesus. He saw someone in deep and profound pain right in front of him. And what Jesus felt is the very same thing that he feels for you whenever you're hurting, when you're afraid, when there's that sickness, when your marriage is struggling, when who knows what is happening with your kids, when you're trying to pay bills and you don't know how you're going to be able to pay these bills, whenever you're praying and you're praying and you're praying for that family member who's making crazy decisions and you're aching, hoping, believing that family member will be okay. God, keep them safe. Jesus feels that same thing for you when you're hurting as he did for this woman who was in pain, who just appeared in front of him. Still in verse 13, when the Lord saw her, his heart went out to her. In other translations, it says, his heart overflowed with compassion. And the root word that's translated as compassion is kind of a fun word, okay? This is the word S-P-L-A-G-N-A, splagna. You could go ahead and type that in the chat, right? I like that word, and I kind of like it a lot. It sounds like, okay, bear with me. It sounds like, have you ever stuck your finger down your throat and you kind of splagna everywhere? That's what it sounds like. And the truth is, it's very much like what that word means. It means to feel something from the guts, from the intestines, in your bowels, deep inside. There is no stronger word in the Greek language to represent the depth of compassion, the feeling for someone else from deep within, from your bowels. Jesus saw her pain. He noticed it. He felt it in himself. And he cared. But that's not always the way that we feel about God, is it? Honestly, I don't know who needs to hear this today, but the Lord our God knows what you are going through. And he is not ambivalent towards it. He cares about you more than you could imagine. He sees your pain. He hears the cries of your heart. He knows when you feel desperate. He knows when you can't catch a breath, when your heart rate pounds and you feel so much weight and anxiety that you can barely even find your next breath. The Lord sees you. He knows that pain. He knows what it's like when you're praying for your marriage. When you don't know when you're going to find your next job, but you need to find your next job. When you're praying for your kids, when you feel anxious, when you feel frustrated, when you feel afraid, the Lord sees you. He notices and he cares. Jesus sees this single mom, grieving, hurts with her. And he says, don't cry. But it's not just sort of an empty, no, there, don't cry. No, verse 14, then he went up and he touched the bier. And they were carrying the boy on, and all the bearers stood still. Now the bier, or like we would think maybe the coffin, that wouldn't be like anything that we would see today. It's kind of like a flat piece of wood, like a sheet of plywood on some wheels. Kind of like a special cart. And they'd put the body on top of this bier, on top of this cart, and the body would almost always be exposed, so not covered up, no sheet on it or anything like that. So when Jesus goes up and he touched the bier, this, for the community, man, this is shocking. It's completely scandalous. This is unheard of. People everywhere, group over here, they're all going to gasp because there were so many religious laws, right? And these rules were almost always all concerned with the outside, right? Put on a good show, keep that display in high def, keep your game face on, keep your costume on straight, don't smear the makeup. Here's the image. That's all that I want you to see. I want to portray something I may not be on the inside, but I'm going to show you outwardly that I'm incredibly religious. You ever done this? They had 613 of these very distinct, very strict laws, one of which was you don't know never touch a dead body. You don't know never touch anything that touched a dead body, because if you touch a dead body, or if anything touches the dead body and then you touch what touches the dead body, you become ceremonially unclean. Jesus, this prophet, claiming to be the Son of God, touches something that makes him, everybody's watching him, makes him spiritually unclean. When Jesus touches the bier, he crossed a line. Everybody knew he was crossing a line. And I love this about Jesus because Jesus is a line crosser. Every time religion would draw a line, Jesus would cross that line. Why? Because love crosses lines for people. Whatever the line is that you are feeling right now, that line that you think is keeping you distant from God, you need to understand that he crosses lines for those he loves. Jesus is a line crosser. He said Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. And what distorted religion does, the religiosity, the legalism, that's all about rules and not about love. When it does this, it draws lines, and it draws them on purpose to keep people out. And the tragedy is that's the very thing that has some of you or someone you love kept back from the things of God. I don't want to go to that church because everybody's a legalist, bunch of hypocrites. And that's what religion sometimes wrongly does. With good intentions, but it draws lines. And if you're if that part of the church bothers you, you need to know that it bothered Jesus too. Jesus didn't want any line, any external rule to keep people from experiencing him, experiencing his love, his grace, his power. And that's why we don't draw lines to keep people out. We cross lines to bring people in. That's what we do in partnership with our God. That's what we have seen God himself do. He has broken down barriers and he has opened doors. We've watched it. We've seen it. It's our life, our shared experience. So, ignoring the religious policies, Jesus touches the bier, right? Perhaps even touches the boy. No boundaries, no rules, no laws can keep Jesus from expressing the depth of the compassion that he feels for those who are hurting. Jesus touches the boy. And imagine, again, crowd over here, they're all around him, right? Scandalous. They gasp. And what's even more incredible is that the boy gasps. The boy took a breath and he started talking. Whatever feels dead in your life right now, with one touch of Jesus, it can come back to life. You need one touch. Just one touch. From the author of life, the giver of life brings dead things back to life. Again, just one touch, just one moment, just one word, just one sense that not only is he with you, he sees you. And in seeing, he also cares. What did it take to completely alter this boy and his grieving mom? Just one touch, just one connection with Jesus. So in preparation, my prayer for today is for somebody maybe watching online or someone who's come to church maybe for the first time in a long time, someone who's here all the time, that there would be one moment, there would be one word, maybe one song, one sense of the goodness and the grace of God crossing whatever barrier that you feel, that you believe separates you from God. And know that our God crosses lines to show His love. The Lord saw her, He cared, and He touched. And it's almost impossible to describe what this did for this grieving widow. Because moments before, she's walking down the road and she's got nothing. Not only did she lose those she loved, her husband and her son, but she couldn't even support herself anymore. In this culture, if you don't have a husband, you don't have a son, those were your means of support. As crazy as it sounds, women just weren't allowed and didn't have the ability to create any kind of means to even feed themselves. And so she would have had basically two options. One, she's a beggar, dependent on other people, hopefully maybe family, but dependent on them for the rest of her life. Or two, second option is much worse. And she'd have to use her body. And that would be unthinkable. Do all of that horror just to have something to eat. But Jesus touches this boy. He comes back to life, and Jesus carries this boy to the single mom, and not only does He give her back her son, He gives her back her hope. And again, that's the prayer for me today, that for somebody who's feeling anxious, and somebody who feels afraid, and somebody who feels bitter, irritated, agitated, always on guard, for someone maybe who's feeling unsettled, that with just one touch, God would give you your hope back. Just one touch. There was a time when I was disoriented, lost, just unable to pull up the map. I was unsure, but somehow marginally hopeful. I was discouraged, but somehow not in despair. I just couldn't get the sense of the call of God off my life, get away from it, off my mind, even though I really wanted to. I just wanted to go and do something else, Go and finally make some better money and go and get a job where you could actually get weekends off once in a while. Go get a job that you can punch out from. Get off the clock. I didn't receive that freedom. I did not get released from my call. And I sense that I'm hearing something from God, but I'm having great difficulty assembling all of these pieces and syncing them together. Like getting that feeling that this feels like it's right. It seems like this is right. But God, could you give me some glue so I can stick these things together? Give me something, just one word. So I made a list of words. I brainstormed a list, words that might work. 5 pages of names. So I was hearing but not comprehending. It was coming piece by piece, little bits. He's there, but I don't know exactly how. It didn't make me feel like He didn't love me. I was never in that place. I just felt like heaven was not as clear as I would like it to be. Into one. Maybe? I kept asking, and I kept listening, and it wasn't audible, but it became so loud, it was almost audible. And then it was audible. I read it, and then I heard it. I was reading the first edition of the New Living Translation Bible, the High Priestly Prayer, John 17, and it was there. John 17:23. Jesus is praying to God, and He's saying, I and them, so talking about Him being in us, and you, Father, in me, that they may be perfected into one. That the world may know that you sent me and love them even as you love me. Did you hear that? I mean, I just heard it. Into one. That the world may know. It came together. And we abandoned good grammar and we made multiple words into one word. And I heard it, and I was unsure. Then I heard it again. And when I heard it, I'm telling you, when I heard it that time, I had to pull over to the side of the road. I was driving and I was just in that moment overwhelmed. I just stopped and it washed over me. I was listening to a song by U2, Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For. And I go, that's me. That's my story. I haven't found what I'm looking for. I'm looking. But man, I've been so disappointed. I've been so discouraged by what I had experienced in churches. And I knew that I still wanted more. And God gave me a thirst to believe that there was more, that there could be more. I believe in the kingdom come, when all the colors will bleed into one. And I heard it. Words, ideas, hope, vision, a direction, an identity, a purpose, a mission. That's what I want. That's where I want to go. That's what I want to find. That's what I want to be in, all rolled together into one. There you go, God. There you go. You pushed a go button. You saw me. And now I can lead with steady faith, and I can preach with steady endurance, and I can have a steady confidence in the faithfulness of God. And so if you want to know where Into One came from, that's what I heard from God. That's what I keep hearing. I kept hearing it, and I kept hearing about it. One word, and that's all I needed. Just one touch. No other idea how anything else would work. So back to the beginning. How are you doing? If you could describe your emotional state in one word, still no cuss words, what would you say? I'm settled, delighted, anxious, afraid, hopeful, desperate, hopeless, tense, irritated, agitated, frustrated. Cry out to the God who is moving towards you as you speak. Whatever line you feel separates you from His goodness, know that He's stepping across that line. He is a rule breaker who cares about you, and there is nothing that is going to keep Him from pursuing you, from reaching out to you, from loving you, from showing you His grace and His goodness. He is coming for you to show you that He notices, He sees, and He cares. He cares about you more than you can imagine. His compassion is deep. When this widow's only son experienced the resurrection life from the only Son of God, there was nothing that was dead that His compassion couldn't bring back to life. Get your hope back. Get your hope back, because He's coming after you and He cares about you. All it takes is just one touch. So, Father, today we pray in the name of the one who is resurrection life, that you would touch those who are hurting, and there's lots of us here. Those who are afraid, those who are confused, those who feel alone, those who feel lost. Father, I pray for those who may feel like I've felt, kind of like heaven was way too quiet for them. They just crack it open a little bit. Send one beam of light, one word, one song, one moment, one word of encouragement, one prayer, one scripture. God, just one word. We need you. We need to hear from you. And God, that when it happens, that we would recognize it and believe it and take it to the bank. You see us. You noticed, God. You see our pain. You care from the depths of your compassion. And God, as you love us, give us that same type of compassion for those who are hurting and broken, afraid and lost. God, make us line crossers, rule breakers, not drawing lines to keep people out, but God, crossing lines, doing whatever it takes to bring people in. So, Father, for those that are hurting today, reveal to them, please, just how much you noticed, just how much you care. Stand with them. Let them know that you're standing with them. God, give them that just one touch. Please. Amen.
So let's stand together.